Good evening. I would like to call to order today's meeting, August 4th, 2020, for our Little Rock City Board of Directors. We would like to welcome those that are in attendance as well as those watching online and at home streaming. We'd also like to take this time to welcome Directors Hendricks, Richardson, Webb, Fordson, and Vice Mayor Wyrick's here with us today. We're happy to see you today, who are all participating with us via video conferencing. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson, Director Webb, Director Peck, Director Hines,
Present.
Director Wright,
Present.
Director Campiris, Director Fortson,
Here.
Director Adcock,
Present.
Vice Mayor Wyrick,
Present.
Mayor Scott.
Present.
I think Director Webb's on. I don't know if they got her.
Director Webb, did you say present?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right.
I don't hear nothing.
We want to make sure we had you online, Director Hendricks, got you and Director Webb. Let me now take this time to recognize Vice Mayor Wyrick, who will give our invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. It's been a beautiful day. We've had a lot of cool air, still more hot to come, but we thank you for the blessings that you've given us in our city and in our community. Be with each of our employees as they perform their duties. Be with each board member as they perform their duties. We thank you for the ability to take care of the citizens in our city. Be with each of us as we travel home. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. May all stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
Nation under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please read the consent agenda?
A motion to approve the minutes of the July 7th, 2020 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting and the June 23rd, 2020 Little Rock City Board of Directors special called meeting. A resolution is set September 1st, 2020 as the date of public hearing to consider the abandonment of a 60-foot utility and drainage easement located at 16801 Chenal Parkway in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. A resolution to set September 1st, 2020 as the date of a public hearing on the request to abandon the east 15 feet of the 80-foot wide Polk Street right-of-way adjacent to 5423 Hawthorne Road in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with F&D Ranch LLC and Arkansas Limited Liability Company for the purchase of approximately 100 acres of land for use by the Little Rock Port Authority for economic prospect recruitment and for other purposes. That is a consent agenda.
Move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the grouped items for the first time.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Cantrell Tunnel Wash Revised Short Form PCD located at 7706 and 7708 Cantrell Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to repeal ordinance number 16,532, December 7, 1993, to revoke a planned commercial district titled Abernathy Curtis Short Form PCD to reclassify property located at 112 West 13th Street in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. First reading.
We will suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have the second reading.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Cantrell Tunnel Wash Revised Short Form PCD located at 7706 and 7708 Cantrell Road. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to repeal ordinance number 16,532 December 7, 1993 to revoke a planned commercial district titled Abernathy Curtis Short Form PCD to reclassify property located at 112 West 13th Street. Second reading.
We suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Cantrell Tunnel Wash Revised Short Form PCD located at 7706 and 7708 Cantrell Road. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to repeal ordinance number 16,532 December 7, 1993 to revoke a planned commercial district titled Abernathy Curtis Short Form PCD to reclassify property located at 112 West 13th Street. Third reading.
We've now had 3 readings. Are there any questions from board members? Questions from board members? Question from board members? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the separate item for the first time.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Cantrell West Restaurant Center Short Form PCD located at 15100 through 15122 Cantrell Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. First reading.
We suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Cantrell West Restaurant Center Short Form PCD located at 15100 through 15122 Cantrell Road. Second reading.
We suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second placed on third and final reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Cantrell West Restaurant Center Short Form PCD located at 15100 through 15122 Cantrell Road. Third and final reading.
Before we move to a vote, we have a number of different cards for this particular agenda item. Mr. Steve Giles, if you would approach the podium. Mr. Steve Giles. Oh, hey, Mr. Giles.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, members of the board. I'm Steve Giles. I'm an attorney in Little Rock with Dover Dixon Horn Law Firm, and I've been engaged by some of the neighbors of this project, the ones that live on Rummel Road. Specifically, May and Jimmy Brown live right across. Am I on? Oh, mask. Oh, thank you for telling me that, Dean. I appreciate it. They live right across the street from where the proposed access road on Rummel Road, access road, will come out. I'm not going to speak long at all, just maybe a couple of minutes, because there are people here from the neighborhood. They've been working very hard on this, trying to work out solutions, and but they have specific areas of concern that I'm going to highlight. First of all, the existing traffic congestion on Cantrell and the increase of traffic that will be established by this proposed project. Second is the intensity of the land use that is proposed, 3 drive-through restaurants right there, which combined with Tzatziki's and Burger King will be 5 drive-through restaurants in a row. That's too much. And then the vagueness of the project details, such as hours of operation, what these are they going to be restaurants? We don't even know if they're going to be restaurants or not, because we've been told that, well, he may change all of this after this approval, which, as being a planned development, we know we would have to certainly go back through the Planning Commission and this board. Use of Rummel Road for commercial purposes, that's a real concern to these people, because there's 58 to 60 homes that take access. It's their lifeblood is the Rummel Road, getting onto Cantrell Road and back home. Some of our residents have special needs. They have to get to doctor's office and hospitals sometimes, and traffic concerns right there at that intersection. It's not real safe right now, but it's going to be worse if this is allowed to build. And overbuilding the site, we just think it's just too much on this size of a property. So I'm going to turn it over to the other members, the people on the cards.
Yeah, I have some cards here.
Okay, thank you, BJ.
Thank you, Mr. Giles. Gray Williams. Do I have a Gray Williams here? Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Scott and directors. Several of you know me already, for which you deserve my sympathy, but by way of a brief intro for those that don't, my name is Gray Williams. I live at 6 Thomas Park. That's one of the homes that's in the cul-de-sac behind this intersection. My wife and I have lived in that house for 20 years, and we lived in this corridor for about 50. Have driven through the intersection tens of thousands of times. I actually did the math on that. You're all in possession of the application and the staff's comments, so I'm not going to review those in any kind of detail, but there are several items that are not covered properly or appropriately that I just want to point out. Section B talks about the properties immediately west across Rummel Road are undeveloped. That's factually incorrect. Jimmy and May, who are sitting right over there, live on that property. It's been occupied for quite a while. There's a statement made that a city park is located south across Cantrell Road. There is no park there. That is, I think what they're trying to refer to is a creek that drains a lot of the water in West Little Rock into the Little Maumelle. Floods quite often as well. There's a comment in D7 about the lot size. I just want to point out the fact that this is actually 3 violations of the lot size minimum, not 1. These are 3 lots. Each of them is smaller than the DOD recommends. D11 and D12 talk about drainage, which is a major problem, but I'd like to point out that it's worse than it looks because of the slope of the property itself, and then the property behind it to the north is also very steep, and then in front of this subject property is Cantrell Road, and it's actually an area of Cantrell that already has a lot of stormwater retention in it, and all you have to do is drive through when it rains sometime. You'll see what I mean. D17 talks a little bit about egress. In addition to just the distance measurements that we have in our code, I think strong consideration should be given to the slope of Rummel and the curve of Rummel near that westernmost entrance and exit. There are multiple variances on driveways that are necessary for this. Don's going to be talking, I think, about the design overlay district, so I'm not going to cover that. But what I'd like for everyone to notice is that a lot of the variances that we're looking at here are not variances just to make this thing look pretty and fit into the neighborhood. These are safety issues, and it's already a treacherous intersection. Driveway separation, line of sight distances, drainage problems, insufficient parking. These are the kinds of things that are being asked for as far as variances. I'm very disappointed that staff recommended acceptance. One of our neighbors has done an exhaustive search of the city looking for places where there are at least 3 drive-in restaurants in a row. There are 2. Both of those areas are zoned C3. As Steve pointed out, this development, should it proceed, would result in 4, which does not exist anywhere in the city. Not on Rodney Parham, not on Geyer Springs, nowhere. The rear and side yards are already deficient, as staff points out. This is even granting driveway violations, insufficient parking on one of the lots, and before the stormwater drainage is engineered. I can tell you from my own personal commute that traffic backs up past this intersection twice every day under normal conditions. This is the intersection west of the subject property. So the traffic is coming all the way from the east through this intersection to the west, and it will be blocking entrance and exit out of and into this property. In addition to the technical violations, there were several statements made at the Planning Commission that we just need to correct. There were some factual errors that were presented to the Planning Commission. One of those was no commercial property is available on Cantrell. Even after we'd clearly and factually refuted this, it was repeated. There are several properties for sale and several others for lease. And you can find this out if you just drive up and down the road, or if you happen to know someone in the commercial real estate business who has access to listings. Another statement was Burger King and Wendy's are the only places nearby in terms of restaurants. We counted 19 establishments between Taylor Loop and Chenal. I've got a map here that has most of them. This is all kinds of establishments. This is drive-through, takeout, sit down, nice, not so nice, pizza, burgers, you name it. Anything you can imagine, you can find in that intersection already. And that does not include vacant spaces, of which there are several waiting for development in this corridor. So there is no need to designate this particular spot for additional development. Another statement was made that the nearest house is 1,000 feet away. I knew that was not true because it's a pitching wedge from Jimmy's place. But when I went to City's GIS and looked, there are actually 10 houses within that distance. The developer stated that we can't make every road in Little Rock residential, and I would agree 100%, but not every road in Little Rock is in a design overlay district. And the neighbors are not opposed to development and even commercial development. We did not oppose the Tzatziki's when it went in. There's still buffer between Tzatziki's and that intersection. We actually supported POD, planned office development, I guess is what that's called, a couple of years ago for that same location. So the neighbors have and will support suburban office at that intersection. So I guess my response to you can't make every street in Little Rock residential is you can't make every corner in Little Rock a commercial node. So Mayor Scott and directors, in summary, I would just like to say this is not a case of a legacy landowner who's being unduly restricted by the city changing the rules. My understanding is that this developer has now purchased the property, and at the time of that purchase, the developer had full access to the land use plan, the zoning rules, the design overlay district, market information, other available properties, and it was in the middle of the pandemic. So this is really just an attempt to buy low, move up the property, and get what you can out of it. The neighborhood is very united and organized in our plea that you vote no to this proposal. And if you, I think someone has forwarded you maybe the change.org site. Last count, there were 408 signatures on that petition. And I think the number is, if you look at it now, there might be more than that. So anyway, that's all I would ask for you to consider. And Dawn, I think it's...
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. I do want to read, we have 3 that want to share that they are against but do not wish to speak. Mr. Ken Harrison, Mimi Brown, James Brown, and Mickey Thomas. Read those. Allie, if you would read the email, then we'll go forward with the last 2 who want to speak in person.
The email is from Betty Deere. Hi, I've lived at 14 Garden Valley Lane, Little Rock 72223 for 3 years now. I moved from Pine Manor, a beautiful neighborhood abundant with trees. When I moved out west, I thought I would enjoy all the trees, forests along LaMarche, not to mention rare and unique wildflowers that grew along roadside of LaMarche. What a valuable asset for a city. But no longer. The wildflowers are sprayed very spring and the roadside scrapped all vegetation. By midsummer, a few struggling wildflowers return, but they're slowly disappearing. Why eliminate them? They are a beauty asset to an area that is rapidly being cleared for more houses that are set so close together as the law allows, and all trees removed. All along LaMarche, deforest and build as many houses as can be crammed onto LaMarche as possible. The traffic has become unmanageable. Shortly after I moved out here, the lots adjoining my Garden Valley subdivision on west side toward Chenal were cleared of every tree, twig, and blade of grass. Bigger houses were built side by side in the blazing sun. Recently, the 3 big lots on the corner of Taylor Loop and LaMarche were cleared of every twig. Beautiful oak trees that line the street were chopped down. that affects every house on the Garden Valley lane side of the street. I've had to re-landscape my backyard and putting up an awning due to the blazing sun now that those oaks were cut down. Recently, a developer named Reese is also trying to get access for restaurants in a residential area behind other restaurants that crowd the lower end of Highway 10. More trees cleared and more brick and concrete. What is going on? Who is profiting from destroying all this beautiful green space that Little Rock should be so proud of? Also, I pay an extra $1,100 onto my personal property taxes and will do so for another 10 years, explaining to me by the assessor because of a city bond that charges us homeowners for the development of streetlights, utilities, etc. for all these subdivisions. Why not the developer? I write to voice my outrage. Please stop allowing this green carnage and ridiculousness. We're in the midst of climate change. I would appreciate your thoughtfulness of the environment and attention to whoever is profiting from this massive overdevelopment. Betty Deere.
All right, thank you so much. Don Prasida? I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. Please forgive me.
That's fine. It's Persifka.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sir, certainly. Good afternoon, directors and Mayor Scott. I appreciate your service to our beautiful city and the opportunity to talk to you today about an issue that not only impacts my home and my family, but countless families in our city who both live in the area and travel the area that Mr. Reese is proposing to build 3 fast food drive-through restaurants. Today, I want to talk to you about one specific concern, which is more global issues surrounding the development of this property. It is the continued violation of the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor Design Overlay, as I will refer to it as the DOD. As founded in the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, Chapter 36, Article 5, Division 7, which has the effective law regarding the development of this area. As a graduate of Leadership Greater Little Rock and Leadership Arkansas, I learned the value of good development. I also became a more engaged citizen and have come before the Planning Commission and staff, as well as the mayor and board of directors, either supporting development and several times voicing my concern for development that is counter to the law. The staff and Planning Commission continue to override and violate the spirit of the law by disregarding the DOD and granting the developers requested variances, rezoning to allow what the residents are being told is considered progress. I'm not opposed to progress. I'm not opposed to development. I'm not opposed to a Taco Bell. I'm not opposed to tattoo parlors or tire stores. I am opposed to going against the very foundation that the residents have relied on, believed in, and trusted in when they chose this area to buy or build their home. We saw a plan that was designed for future growth that will provide safety, retain property value, and create an intentional plan that worked well for all. Mr. Reese told the residents at the August 13th neighborhood meeting that the board of directors are not going to support the DOD because it's old and not good anymore. To date, this law has not been changed in the Code of Ordinances, and you, as the leadership of our city, have not made a statement collectively or individually that disregards this law. Yes, the law is 25 years old. It may need to be revisited by you, our city leaders, to determine if it is necessary to change or rededicate to the enforcing of this law. It would be very beneficial to all if we could enforce the DOD before making this decision and figure out what it is so that we're aligned with the plan. Many people, including me, have spent large amounts of time standing up for good visionary plan, which is now law, only to be told it's old and does not really fit in our city today. I question that statement. One very important reason for this law was to be there for the future. The people who put this law on the books did it for the future of this area because they saw a vision that would create a very intentional plan, creating commercial nodes, transitional space, and safe residential property. The DOD is just hitting its maturity, and it is doing exactly what it was intended to do: stop development that is inappropriate per the long-range development plan. We residents relied on the DOD. We like the DOD. The constant variance allowance is giving our city the reputation that the law can be overridden, which violates the spirit of the law. Although I am very opposed to Mr. Reese's plan of development at the corner of Highway 10 and Rummel, my more pressing request to you would be to take time to re-examine the DOD, and you determine if this is still a law for us, the residents, to trust in and believe in that it will be there to protect the safety of our families and our investments. If, as the Little Rock Board of Directors, you determine necessary changes need to be made or the DOD will be preserved, at least the citizens know what the foundational plan is for the area in which we live, which in turn will guide them regarded if they have a voice in the future of the development of their neighborhood. I ask that you deny Mr. Reese of his inappropriate development he has proposed and make it a priority to evaluate the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, Chapter 36, Article 5, Division 7, that addresses the law outlined for the development of this property once and for all. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you. Richard Stoker.
Mayor Scott, board members, I would like to just try to summarize a little bit a number of open questions related to this application that kind of point out why we are here and are opposed to this. Let me mention I live at 11 Countryside Cove, which connects through Rummel to Cantrell. So I pass within 50 feet of this proposed location 2 or 3 times a day. A couple of the questions: who will the tenants be? The applicant does not know, cannot give us any names of 3 restaurants that might want to go in there. We don't have any details. We don't know what the hours of operation would be. Would it be a 24-hour operation? Would it shut down at 2 a.m. in the morning? We just don't know. The applicant, Mr. Reese, has stated that, well, right now he has in this application that there would be 3 drive-through restaurants, but he says that it could be 2, it could be a sit-down restaurant, it could be retail, so we just don't know. What Mr. Reese did say in a recent neighborhood meeting was that what he has on this application with 3 drive-through restaurants is what he referred to as a worst-case scenario, and I would agree with that. It's trying to shoehorn too much into too small a piece of land. We have significant concerns about the impact of traffic on Cantrell Road. We also are concerned about the future when the state extends their improvements on Cantrell Road out past Taylor Loop. For one thing, they are talking about putting medians in the center of 6 lanes, 3 each way. If they do that and they extend it out to Rummel Road, then anyone eastbound traffic that wanted to turn into this site would have to turn onto Rummel, and it would turn Rummel Road into a commercial driveway. Right now, I don't know if you've seen Rummel Road, but it barely serves the traffic it has on it at the moment. Also, what is the impact of development on traffic plans and safety on Rummel Road? There was a traffic study done, but the only thing that they addressed were the traffic coming into and coming out of the 2 driveways that are part of this development. They did not study any impact on Rummel Road. They assumed that there would be no impact on Rummel Road. But as soon as people, eastbound traffic, learn that you can get to these sites from Rummel Road and you don't have to wait in the left turn lane, then they will start using that heavily. Also, planning staff indicated that there is a chance that the drive-through restaurants could back up and actually back up and start to queue out on Cantrell. They made a couple of suggestions about how that might be addressed, but we don't have any specifics about how you would address that. When it happens, it normally is an after-the-fact thing. You have to react to it. So we need to see some specific plans as to how that would be addressed when it happens. The statement was made with respect to Rummel Road, that one reason why they were showing to put an access there onto Rummel was so that neighbors who live off of Rummel would have an easy access into those sites. But I've polled the neighbors. We don't know anyone who really wants that. Rummel is not suited for this type of traffic and should not be considered or put in harm's way as far as what the future of Highway 10 looks like. So those are some of the major open questions that we have. And we've asked these questions of the developer, but he doesn't really have any answers because he doesn't really know what he's going to put on that site. We're talking about two driveways that attach to Cantrell, but we have to remember just to the east is Taziki's with another driveway, and to the west is the intersection with Rummel Road. So you have 4 interfaces directly onto Cantrell in a span of a little over 1/10 of a mile. It's going to create a danger zone. Traffic typically hits speeds of 45 to 50 miles per hour in that area. So I thank you for your time. I would urge you to vote against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stoker. We've read all of the agenda items. Are there any comments from the board before we go to a vote?
I have a question.
Vice Mayor Wyrick.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, is he, can I ask him
Director
a couple of
Collins.
questions? The first question I have probably is a Public Works one, but you coming from Public Works, you can probably answer that. I think I read in the application that it's a right turn in, right turn out only from this location. Is that true?
That is
On Highway
correct. That
10?
is, in conversations with the Department of Transportation, they have commented that any drive permitted at that location will be right in, right out on Cantrell.
Okay. And
They control the permit, you know.
I'm sorry?
The DOT will control that driveway permit.
Okay. Okay. But their comments are right turn in, right turn out. Right in, right out. Right.
That's correct.
Okay. So we have a PCD that potentially could have 3 restaurants. Kind of foggy about whether that's going to be what's going to be there or not. What are the other options at this location? Particularly, can you put apartments in a PCD or PDC, PCD?
That is an option to put in a planned development. It depends on, right now, it's the main portion of the sites that are proposed, the 3 tracks, was a POD. So it does have to be a revised plan development, or at some point in time, the owner of the property would have to come in and request a revocation of the plan development to revert back to the original zoning. Original zoning underneath this is actually residential. It's R2.
Right.
When it got brought in. So the land use originally in this area, both north and south of the tract, a little bit more than what Taziki's tract going further east, back prior to the 2000s, when really the main rezoning and redo of the land use plan started. All this was zoned, or for land use, not zoned. It was for future, for transition. Which what that means is that since there is residential to the north and also to the south on Cantrell, the intent was to transition from a residential use to more of that commercial node that's on there. So that could be multifamily, that could be office, that could also be commercial. And as you've seen, as you get closer to nodes, it transitions to commercial for that. So a multifamily can be part of that, but the location would, we'd have to look at the location of it to see access and the width of it, because any development, especially an apartment just for the size that they would need for parking would not be conducive for typically this size of sites.
The reason why I asked that question is I probably received 40 emails in regards to this application, and several of them talked about apartments. And I just wanted to understand what the possibilities were for this PCD. Were there any things that were written out of the PCD for usage?
As far as limiting of the
Right,
uses, right
limiting
now,
usage.
because they called out 3 specific restaurant with drive-through uses, that would be the uses that would be allowed. So in the, what we would do is say at some point in time, the developer, if approved with those specific uses, chooses to change it, we would have to see if that's substantial by the ordinances that was passed previously in May. So changed from a restaurant to a restaurant, that's one thing, but changed from a restaurant to another commercial use or an office use would be something different and would have to come back through the PCD process.
Okay, I should know this, but it's left me. If and when there is a change for the items that are in the PCD, is that an approval by just the Planning Commission, or does that come to the board as well?
If it gets to that substantial, it would come to the board.
Would come to the board?
And like I was explaining, say it's better to explain, somebody put in a drive-through, one of these was a restaurant with a drive-through, but say that didn't happen, another restaurant that didn't have the drive-through, but it was less intensity, but it's still that restaurant use, that's still the same use. I would not, at staff level, deem that substantial. If they come in and wanted to add something or wanted to change it to a different type of commercial use, then that intensity could change. It could be different. The layout could change. That would be substantial and would need to come back through the Planning Commission process for recommendation to the board.
So someone brought up the queuing issue, and I don't know if that's something that you want to talk about or if that's a Public Works thing. But if you have 3 restaurants, and you know we've got some restaurants that generate a lot of traffic, I'm curious to know if we're going to have an issue with queuing. And I asked Mr. Reese about that. He seems to think that we're okay, but from a staff level, what are your thoughts?
Well, we did look at that, Vice Mayor, and what we looked at was number of drives, access, and where they're located at. And there is ways that you can reroute traffic, you know, coming into that restaurant for queuing to try to accommodate that. And as you well know, several restaurants, even close to here, not very far away, does have queuing issues on the site. Yeah. And in every approval that we give, you know, there's the verbiage in there that we look at it now, but we also look at it upon operation. And what we're concerned with is that queuing as it affects the right-of-way getting on site. So it is a variable, you know, depending upon what comes in, not just whether it's a restaurant drive-through, but also the brand or style of restaurant that comes in, and then also the number. So if you, and I'm not talking that there's 3 drives proposed, but 3 restaurants with 3 separate drives has a less chance of queuing than 3 restaurants with 1 drive accessing Cantrell. So we look at all that to see what that aspect is, and we feel that the 2 drives location has enough opportunity to accommodate queuing on site to not affect the right-of-way, but it is in there as a condition of approval that it is evaluated once opened.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Director Hines, did you have a question?
Thank you. Jim, I think my comments go to the fact that when we approved it, it was originally Zaxby's that is now actually Taziki's came in there as a restaurant drive-through. That location has, I think if my numbers are right, about 15 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of restaurant. It's roughly a 4,000 square foot restaurant, and it's got 15. My estimation on these 3 restaurants is they have less than 10 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of restaurant based on the pad space. The reductions in the side yard between these should be 50 feet per the DOD, and they're not. What this really brings me back to is when we approved the Zaxby's, I know myself and several board members made a commitment to the folks out on Highway 10, Dawn and Ken and them, that we would not allow any more zoning creep from the commercial node at Taylor Loop into this area. I thought we had the equation solved with Dr. Spann had bought that existing plat of land that Mr. Reese has now acquired, that he was going to have a doctor's office there, which would have finished out. And I think the neighbors would love to see something finished out, but not something this intense. And I have to agree with them, and I'm going to stick by my commitment, not allow any zoning creep, and to stick with the zoning and the land use that's in here, and stick with either a mixed use or suburban office that's less intense for this development. So I'm not going to be supporting this application. Thank you.
Any more questions from board members? Questions from board members? Questions from board members? Director Compuris?
I mean, this is Mr. Reese's show, but is he going to talk, or is?
As you know, since hold on one second, Mr. Reese. As you know, we do our agenda cards who are on time at the start of the gavel. We had our agenda cards at the start of the gavel. As a member of the board, we won't recognize anyone that's not after all these have been read. Now we've been doing that.
Tom, point of order. Mayor, point of order. Is the applicant not exempt from that?
I'm sorry.
Is the applicant not exempt and have a right to speak before this board as being the applicant on the agenda?
I don't think it does with the policy.
That's a policy that we agreed to.
Yeah, because it is a policy. I think the board has the authority to make an exception for an applicant, but it is not required to.
Yeah. That being said, if a board member would like that, I just want to make sure you know.
I'll make the motion.
Let me finish. We've made it a strict policy that we have not done that. So you can't pick and choose when you do it. I want to make sure everyone's very aware of that. That's what we've done for the last 19 months. Hold on one second, Director Hines, because Director Compuris is up.
The neighborhood would welcome him talking. We don't want to squelch him. Like him to have a chance to talk. So if that matters, that's great. I understand you guys have your rules and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
we're going by the rules.
We would not be opposed. I'm just
because it can create a slippery slope when we amend rules. That's got to be a strict. Director Compuris.
And I think what we've done is great. I find this is a precedent that we have said, and I agree with Lance. I was part of the group that said we're not going to do any more, and I'm not going to do any more. So, but I think that I would like to hear from John and get his side of it, at least on the record. And
as a board member,
second that motion.
It's not a motion, Director Hines.
Right.
As a board member.
So I'd like to have his comments on this subject, please.
Yes. Thank you, Director Compuris. Mr. Reese? Yes. We just had to go through a formal procedure.
Okay. Well, I've been up here quite a few times in the last several years. I always thought that I had 20 minutes to speak and they had 20 minutes to speak. So I didn't sign a card. I was just my mistake. I didn't know that we had to sign a card every time. I thought I always had that right. So I apologize not knowing the new rules. So, but yes, I'd like to visit. I appreciate the neighborhood giving me the opportunity or agreeing that I should have at least the right to say something. And I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to thank the planning staff here tonight with Jamie Collins and also the Planning Commission for supporting me on this application. And I do feel like it's the right application, the right spot for the restaurants or whatever. And I agree. I do not know exactly because I don't have anybody on a lease to sign in that area. I just know that this area is prime for commercial development. You've already kind of broken the glass ceiling when you decided that you were going to take Tzatziki's and put them right there in that area. The natural buffer, which when I was meeting with Mr. Collins and we talked about it, and the natural buffer is the Rummel Road drive. You've got a creek on the other side. You've got a lot of room in there. We have a mountain behind us. There is no way that anyone is going to hear, smell, or taste or anything this development except right there on the front. They talked about Rummel Road. Well, we met with the neighborhood the other day for an hour and a half, and we talked about all these things. And when I met with Dr. Jimmy Brown, he got the meeting together. We had about 27 of us meeting. We had a good conversation, I thought. And we went through all of this. Basically, it just got down to they didn't want anything on Rummel. They didn't want the road. They said, well, I know it's going to be developed. I know it's going to be probably commercial or some other type of development. And I'm not saying all three of those are going to be restaurants. I mean, there might be a medical pharmacy right there. It might be a medical office. I don't know, but I want it to basically be a commercial type property because there's very little commercial property in that area. I know I've already had several people call me and said, John, if you get that approved, I want to be a part of it. This is a time when Little Rock needs to grow. Mayor Scott has told me he's for development. He's pro-development. He likes development. He knows that he's already said he likes his project. He told me that. He said this is a good project. Now, I'm not sure if that's the same, if he still believes that or not, but he told me that. And so therefore, under that recommendation, we went forward, and we think that this is a good project. We think that the traffic is mainly on the 299. In fact, my traffic study professional, Ernie Peters over here, which knows more about traffic than anybody in the whole state, he agrees with that. There's not that many people that are going to be new people coming into this area versus what that are there now. And you know, I understand people would like to have it just like it is. I've had people say before, well, you know, I just like to go out there and look at the trees and the squirrels and that sort of thing. Well, I understand maybe they need to buy the property if they just want it to be left vacant. But we want to develop. Little Rock needs to grow. Little Rock needs to have income taxes, sales taxes. And I know that Ms. Adcock over there would like to have sales taxes, and she'd like to have school taxes for the Little Rock public schools because that's a problem. We all want money for our schools, don't we? I think we all do. This is a way that's going to generate that money. We're going to lose probably 10 or 15 or 20 restaurants in Little Rock over the next several months. We've already lost about 10 or 12. And there are going to be more. And those people, when they close the doors, that means that's closing the doors on income for the city of Little Rock. We don't want that. We want Little Rock to grow. We want Little Rock to be vibrant. I do. I live out there. I mean, I don't drive by Wendy's and grimace every time I drive by because I see a fast food. People like fast food. That doesn't mean it's going to be. Maybe I have a sit down. Maybe I'll bring chairs over. I don't know what it's going to be, but I want to bring something good to Little Rock. I am in Little Rock. I'm a resident of Little Rock. I've been here since 1973. So I'm a long-term resident. I still remember Miss Adcock calling me one day when I bought that property on Bowman Road. And she said, John, there are some weeds growing up over there. I want you to come over there and cut those weeds. And I did exactly what she said. I got over there and cut them off. So I've been around a long time. And I want to go ahead and introduce Ernie because he is going.
Mr. Reese, you're able to talk. Again, we're going by our rules. We did allow, out of courtesy to Director Compuris, for you to speak, but we won't be going over our rules. So you got to finish your comments, but then after your comments, we'll then move towards a vote. That's the rules, and we've actually been through.
Well, I think everybody ought to know the rules before we get started, Mayor Scott. I really do. That's not right.
And Mr. Reese, we created these rules the first meeting in 2019. So I'm sorry you didn't know that, but that's what we've been operating from since the.
Well, I wish they would tell us.
It's been operating from very first meeting, and it happens every meeting. You can go to YouTube and check that out.
Well, anyway, okay. I want to just say that Mr. Peters has made a study that we looked at. He said this property will only generate about 500 cars additional per day. That's after, because there's going to be a lot of people that pass by the property. And those people that just pass by that's not new traffic. That's people who are already out there. And when you think about having the new Bank of the Ozarks over there, they're going to have 800 people there. They're going to have needs. They're going to have needs for places to live. They're going to have needs for restaurant space. And they're going to need that. And we've got to provide that in that area of town. All we have to do is we need to be able to allow different services in that area and not just restrict them. I think, like I said before, the breaking the barrier there to Zeke's. I've talked to Jim Keat just the other day. He said, "John, I'm all for you. I think this is a good project. I hope you get your restaurants or whatever you're going to put there." And like I said before, we don't know what it is, but I would be also available to remove the road as long as I can get a waiver on doing the development cost on that road. If I don't locate there, then for the sake of the neighborhood, and when I was talking to Dr. Brown the other day, I told him, I said, "Okay, if I do that, will you support me?" And he said, "I'll call Lance Hines right now." I said, "Okay, I'll call him." I'm not sure if he did or not. Did he, Lance? So anyway, I told you I would remove it. So as long as I get a waiver on doing the development, if I'm not going to locate there, I'll take that off the table. I won't use it. So that's a big part. They said that was their main issue.
Mayor, if there's going to be a change to the application, then the board needs to decide if they wish to move forward or send this back to the commission.
Out of courtesy to Director Hines, with this being in his ward, is that something you would like to entertain, Director Hines?
John, I did talk to Jimmy, and the issue you have is not wanting to do the improvements to Rummel Road and taking the driveway off. I'm not going to support that either. I'm just telling you, and I told you that I made a commitment not only to the folks on Rummel Road, but all the other folks, the Don and Ken, Gray, the folks who live across the street in Westchester, that we wouldn't allow any more zoning creep in this area. And the Zaxby's, if you look at the development in that area, you go from a mixed-use development with Burger King with one entrance, then you've got Regions Bank, Dr. Cloud's office, and another doctor's office, to Zeke's, and it is such a far cry to say that we've opened the door when we don't have contiguous fast food drive-through restaurants anywhere in that area, and you want to stack 3 more next to the one that's already there, basically creating a motor food court. The only place that's being done in Little Rock is down on University. So I'm just not going to support it. And I'm not going to support the improvements not being done on a Boundary Street ordinance either. It's pretty consistent with the way I behave with all the developers in West Little Rock.
Mr. Reese, any more comments before we move to final comments from the board perspective and a vote?
Well, I just know that from talking to Ernie and also from listening to what we have right there, we're not going to be increasing the traffic that much out there. The property has 40,000 cars going up and 35,000 cars going up and down the road every day. I don't know how in the world you could find a better piece of property for commercial than that. You've got that. The highest and best use is commercial. And anyone would suggest, you talk to any realtor, they would say, yeah, that's a commercial property. There's no doubt about it. So I don't know why someone just comes in and arbitrarily says that can't be commercial. That's just his opinion or her opinion. Nobody else's, and doesn't mean it's right. I've been in the business long enough to know what a commercial piece of property is, and there's just not that many out there, and so we would like to develop. We want to try to keep this money in the city. We don't want them to go somewhere else. We'd like to have them. I've already had several restaurants already call me about this. So please support this. I think we will make it and a good property, and we would appreciate your vote. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I didn't get the message. I will next time, though.
Any more comments before I make final comments from the board? Director Campuris?
Could you define what the vote is?
Excuse me?
Yes is what?
A vote of yes is to support the rezoning. A vote of no is to not support the rezoning. Director Adcock, did you have? Director Hendricks?
I would love to make a motion that we vote on this issue. We've been talking on it for a long time. And I would also like to say to the gentleman that was speaking, the mayor does not decide, the board decides. The only way the mayor can vote is that it depends upon the number of yeses that we get. So we all know the rules. It's whether we want to abide by them.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Hendricks. To Mr. Reese, I don't know if he stepped out, but definitely want to share. Mr. Reese is correct. I've always shared that I'm pro-development and pro-growth. Mr. Reese and I met last year, very early last year, and after taking time to listen to many of the residents, I went out to this community this past weekend and got a greater understanding of the concerns and walked a lot of the area. One of the things that we have to do with any case, because every city board member wants to see growth in the city, but it has to be smart growth. And as we have smart growth, ability for all to move up together. And so with that being said, I actually do support Director Hines in this effort, in his comments, and we'll make sure the board is aware of that.
Call the question, Mayor.
There's a question.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it.
There goes the call on the question, Mayor.
Right.
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 That was not the vote. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was the call to question. Yeah. We've now had 3 readings. We've had our questions for the event, for this particular ordinance. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nays have it. Any more questions from the board before we move to adjournment?
Mayor.
Citizen.
Oh, citizen, I'm sorry. You're correct.
Yes.
Max Campbell.
3 minutes.
Good afternoon to the board. My name is Max Campbell, and I am once again here calling for the board to reduce overfunding of the Little Rock Police Department in deference to social services, and to allocate a part of the already immense police department budget to training and crime prevention. On August 11th, KARK reported on a Little Rock man who was involved in a fight, who lost his left eye after he was tased there by a Little Rock police officer. Now, I want to repeat that. A Little Rock citizen had 50,000 volts of electricity passed through his head by a city police officer, and he lost his eye. This news story mentioned that the LRPD released a statement saying that the use of force will be evaluated through the officer's chain of command, like all use of force incidents. This is a laughable solution to this issue, as a quick review of LRPD's record shows a clear pattern of officer wrongdoing and exoneration. From the years 2004 to 2014, with many since, there were nearly 80 documented instances of death by a citizen at the hands of a Little Rock police officer. These include incidents where people were shot in the back, victims with mental health issues, and many fabrications or errors in judgment on the part of the officer. I was unable to find an example where an officer faced serious repercussions for their mistakes. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but to my best efforts, there was none present. Nearly all of the cases exonerated the officer of their crime, while less than 10 of these 80-plus cases were classified as status unknown. We deserve better from those allegedly serving and protecting us, and we won't let up until we get it. We can't expect reasonable self-regulation from an institution that is obviously more interested in covering its own ass than serving the community. Thank you.
Hampton Roy.
Hi, my name is Hampton Roy, and I am the Minister of Political Education and Public Relations for the United Panther Party, a citizen of Little Rock, Ward 3, and a historian. I have come before you today as a citizen of our city and a member of the National Vanguard Party to demand that you make moves to defund the Little Rock Police Department and to shortly tell you about the state violence that was enacted upon me and many others by state police and the members of your esteemed police force. I have tried to contact you, Mayor Scott, but was basically told to beat it. The only member of this board that has given me any of their time is Kathy Webb, and for that I thank you. As it currently stands for the budget expenditures, the Little Rock Police Department has been allotted $80 million for the 2020 budget. This is more than 3 times the amount allotted to public health and public utilities, 10 times more than the amount allotted to housing and neighborhood revitalization, growth and development, and 139 times the amount allotted to economic development and employment. In fact, expenditures of the LRPD, not even public safety in general, amounts to almost 30% of the 2020 budget. This is unacceptable, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We are demanding that you make moves to correct this and renegotiate the budget in a way which you actually allocate real funds to programs moving to build our city instead of non-resident mercenary officers that are tearing it apart, including your chief of police who has murdered unarmed civilians in the past and the 80% of white officers that refuse to live in the city, treating it like a military-occupied Fallujah. I received my first real taste of state violence the first night of the protests. I was gassed and shot with rubber bullets while trying to save peaceful protesters from getting hit. Over the course of the first week, I was gassed half a dozen times and hit with rubber 4 times, all while rushing to give medical aid and care to those people getting hit at peaceful protests. Even the LRPD, which claims they took no part in the oppression of peaceful protests, are liars. I personally witnessed members of the LRPD pepper spraying people trying to get away from the gas. The only times it became not peaceful is after we were fired upon, every single time. Using gas and the munitions that they had among a dozen other militaristic tactics are considered war crimes under the Geneva Convention, which was signed following the First World War. With the exception of Kathy Webb, the silence of you board members was noted by myself and every other person in the city. Election time quickly approacheth. My advice to you is this: make moves to make our city shine once again in the eyes of the world. We've missed our first chance at Little Rock Central High, but we have another one now. Show us that you are not war criminals and you actually care about us, your constituents and fellow citizens. Historical chances do not come every day. Make a move to be on the right side of history. Thank you for your time.
Any questions before the board before we move to adjourn? Director Adcock?
Yes, Mr. Moore, we received a letter from Oak Forest neighborhood where there's spraying out in their alleyways. I think you've got a copy of this. Also in Southwest Little Rock, they sprayed on Hyman Parkway, killing trees and killing all the shrubs and stuff that the neighborhood people had on their backyards to keep them from seeing the traffic on the street. And also in the alleys, would you please look at this and get back with Oak Forest and with Meadowcliff neighborhoods?
We are, and you did call me about it, and the initial review, and we're still looking at it. Energy is operating within their authority, but we're checking that to make sure, and we'll get something out to you.
Okay, and Mayor, this came in the mail today, and I think that we need to thank Waste Management for taking this and sending it out to the people to encourage everyone to get counted in the census. They want to encourage people to recycle, but also to be counted. And this coming Saturday, we will be at the Edwards Food Giant on Baseline, the Edwards Food Giant at 20383 Arch Street Pike, Kroger at Guyer Springs, and the Latino grocery store at 7414 Baseline Road. And last Saturday, we did 174 census, and I think you told me that totals $5.5 million over the next 10 years. And on the food boxes, we now have done 799 census to the tune of $24 million over the next 10 years.
Yes, ma'am, you're correct. The City of Little Rock partnered with THV, Channel 11, in a Census Saturdays event. Definitely want to thank our census team that's being led by Lamar Williams and Stephanie Jackson and Charles Blake, and many others are part of that team. We had a number of different members of the City of Little Rock team that spent their Saturday for 3 hours in the hot sun, along with volunteers. Marcella as well was a definite member, and you were there as well. So we're grateful for your leadership and everyone who participated in the Census Saturdays. The reference grocery stores will be there the next 3 Saturdays. And so you're right, we were surprised to do 174, and that represented 5.2 million. And also just thank you for your work and what you've been doing, along with Director Kathy Webb and Harriet and many others that have been working with the food program. And I believe you said it's that total, because you guys have been doing that for at least a month, maybe 2 months. About 700, and so
799, and we still have 7 weeks to go.
7 weeks to go, and it's a team effort, and grateful for your servant leadership, Director Adcock.
Let's make sure we count everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Any more directors? Any comments? Anything before the board? Director Hendricks.
I want to let you know I have family members that's doing the door-to-door 2020 census.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Director.
5 family members.
You got 5 family members doing door-to-door?
I have several family members that have signed up, and they're going door-to-door. They're not standing on the corner where it's available. They're going door-to-door.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much for your leadership. Definitely going to a lot of the hard-to-reach areas, and so thank you so much, Director Hendricks. Board members, seeing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.